A man convinced more than 900 people to themselves for him. How did he do it? Cults, the clearest representation of manipulation in today's society. A hierarchy of trapped slavery hidden by a charismatic figure. A leader who paves the way, is similar enough to you to make you feel understood, heard, and liked, but also is better than you. So they have the answer to all your problems in life. The only thing you have to do in exchange is follow them. Sounds like a win-win. Right? Welcome back to our channel. I'm Paula, a psychology student, and I'm very passionate about cults. Not because I find them good by any means, but they are fascinating. How do they stand? The psychology of not only the leader, but the followers, and the transgression of the moment where you get into a cult and the moment you get out of a cult, and how do they stand the test of time. If you're also a curious mind interested in the workings of manipulation, look no further, because I'm doing a whole series on cults. Analyze the psychologies of the different aspects of one, so that you can become more aware of manipulation, how it works, what it is, and the tactics people use. And in today's video in specific, we're gonna dive into the psychology of a leader, because a few days ago I posted a poll. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, maybe subscribing would be a great thing to you if you want to keep watching the videos and you want to, take part into the which videos is Paula gonna post, because I was asking you guys which POV you wanted to see, and you were pretty divided, and I was also pretty divided, so I'm gonna make them all. So without further ado, let's get into the psyche of those madmen. First of all, what is a cult? And what's the difference between a cult, a religion, and, I don't know, an MLM? Because there's a weird correlation between MLMs and cults. And it's much common the way you think. And it's weird. But it's also not weird because it kind of makes sense. It's all schemy. First of all, they have a leader, someone above. But that's not that different from religions and even clubs. A group of people tend to have a leader so that they can be better organized. But wait, because cults, they have a transcendent belief system, which means that what they believe in has the answer to every problem in their lives. More often than not, it's something that the leader actually doesn't believe in, and they just kind of sell it as con men. Heaven's Gate. How in the hell a man and a woman made people believe that aliens were gonna come for them? Twice. Anyway, also they have systems of control, which means that they kind of force you into wearing certain type of clothes, being associated with some kind of people in specific, more often than not the people inside your cult, and also they often choose who you're gonna marry, which is kind of creepy. But yeah, we're talking about cults, so it's everything creepy. Also, their arguments are based by emotions and a logic. There's no reasoning behind it other than your feelings, especially your fear. They want the followers to acquire the habit of not thinking and just following to what they say. Because let's be honest, inflicting fear to a person is literally one of the worst things you could do to them, because it's one of the most psychologically vulnerable places you can put a person in. And you can easily manipulate someone if they are fearful because they feel like they don't have enough resources, and the first thing that your brain wants to is have enough resources. For instance, religions tell you how you should act, but cults tend to force you to act in some way. That's the slight big difference. Also, the information about cults that I haven't taken from the skills I've acquired as a psychologist, I will link down below the videos and books I've read. Okay, and now that we know what a cult is, we're gonna know what a cult leader is. First of all, a cult leader often employs charismatic rhetoric to influence others. They typically present themselves as a figure of authority possessing some type of divine wisdom that others just don't have. And to that I say, hey Jim Jones, it's not the 15th century. God cannot tell you you are the representation of God and become king. You cannot do that. But you did it, and it was really scary. Was it your preacher skills that you acquired throughout your life because you really liked the Bible? I think you liked more having attention to people, isn't it? Typically, their preaching may involve a blend of spiritual teachings, promises of mental enlightenment, a self-improvement type of mentality, and also sometimes is an apocalyptic end of life, designed to instill both hope and fear to the followers. By creating an us versus them type of mentality, the leader gets to reinforce this cohesion in the group, boosting the bonds and the loyalty towards the leader. The leader doesn't want its followers to think. He wants them to just follow. These kinds of leaders exploit vulnerabilities of the followers. They sell this idea of solving every problem the followers have, as if they were some sort of like existential philosophist or like humanistic psychologist. It's really weird. So that the followers can get a sense of identity and the leader's power and control. I know it sounds really creepy, but now we're gonna dive into the tactics and traits they have and use to just create a cult. First, narcissism and grandiosity. Now, small bracket. All over the internet and real life, I've seen people use the term narcissism and narcissistic as a synonym to like mean or selfish. But you know what? Narcissistic is actually a pathology, and just joking about it is a bit questionable. Because I've seen a wave on the internet of people making jokes about disorders, and it's a bit questionable. Not only though if it's good or not to make fun of diseases, but also why. Like, why do people feel the need to call themselves autistic to make someone else laugh? That's certainly interesting. So if you want me to dive on the romanticization of pathology to make life more bearable, comment down below because I really want to do that. Like, if you want to stick with the role of being a cult leader, you have to believe in yourself, but not in a confidence type of way, in a delusional I'm better than everyone else type of way. But also, this should backfire them, because if you want to be surrounded by people who follow you and you're above everyone else, you're gonna feel really alone. So if you don't want to feel alone, don't go around thinking that you're a cult leader. Second, manipulation and charisma. Charm is used as a weapon, but I'm gonna argue that cult leaders are actually not charismatic. They are pseudo-charismatic. And yes, I just made that word up, and when I made it up, it sounded actually pretty dope, and now I look back, I say it, and I think it's kind of ridiculous. But let me explain. Charisma is basically the intersection between being highly competent and warm. The thing is, cult leaders, are they warm? They are not warm. They may be competent in manipulating people, but what they show to the world and what they want the followers to believe is not them. Those people don't want to get involved with the followers in a nice, cutesy, and warm way. They want to manipulate. They want people to be obedient to them for the sake of power and control. And yeah, that's a Marina song. So it's not real charisma. Figures of authority tend to be highly charismatic, and we want figures of authority to be charismatic. Like, if the president of a country is not charismatic, it's not naturally warm and competent, and by naturally I mean they actually do it for the sake of good of the country. So as long as it doesn't come entirely from a selfish standpoint, I think that's what we want. Someone warm and competent to rule. That's great. And as I've said, they use things like control, isolation, and paranoia, like they sprinkle fear-mongering all over the place so that the followers follow. Because I think I've said it before, fear is the easiest way to manipulate someone. So if someone's fearful and they feel like they lack the resources to actually go on with their lives, or they feel like their lives is going to be extremely threatened, of course they're going to believe the first solution they are given. And also, they tend to be very Machiavellian in the sense of the word we use nowadays. For them, the end justifies the means. And the end is their own satisfaction, and the means is destroying everyone else's satisfaction and fulfillment and sense of like meaning in life. They are con men. They sell false meaning. And they're gonna be like, yes, Paula, those are really dangerous things that a man or a woman can inflict towards a mass group of people. But it's a cult. I'm not gonna fall for a cult. Okay, you may not fall for a cult. Kudos to you. But let me tell you the warning signs, so you can see it everywhere. Because maybe, yeah, classical types of cults are not everywhere, but some sort of like neo-cults. Why am I making up words today? I don't know. Are all over the internet, all over the place. Clubs. Maybe it's not a cult, but it's a club. And the hierarchy and the type of like aura and vibe behind it is, yes, this is me trying to use the words of the internet, and I'm not really vibing with them, but anyway. So yeah, I'm just gonna explain to you guys the warnings. You should be very careful so that you can have more critical thinking whenever you're browsing through the internet or going on with your lives. First, they make it all about themselves. The leaders demand loyalty to them and only them. They demand loyalty to them, not the cause, the reason, or the mission. They rewrite narratives to always be either the victim or the hero. Always, it's very dramatic. And I think that most of us have fallen into the trap of being an extremist and sometimes thinking we're the heroes or the victims, and when in reality we're always in the middle. Do they discourage questions? This is really scary. The red flag is not letting people ask questions. Like if some people if a dogma never lets you ask questions, that's all your alarms should be like ringing. Also, if they try to isolate you from the rest of the world, only we get it. Everyone else is wrong, evil, or lost. The thing is that when you are in, you don't notice because you feel part of the we. But when you're out, you're like, oh my God, this people are crazy. Because this is a way of dividing people. And believe me, you don't want to be divided from society, only to fit into the mold of a crazy ass person. Also, they use big language or grand claims. Just everything's dramatic. I've read a book called Cultish. Amanda Montel, the writer, talks about words like ascend, truth, awaken, the only way. Guys, be really wary. Big promises that are actually out of reach more often than not, they never end well. Because one of the most dangerous things about cult leaders is that they don't want followers. They want control. And the scariest part is that they, more often than not, sound like visionaries, not villains. Please, if someone makes you feel small, dependent, or like as if you owed them loyalty to them all the time, it might be time to ask why. Well, boys, I hope you enjoyed the part 1 of the cult series. And I really want to know where you guys draw the line in between what's a cult and what's a hierarchical group of people with a shared interest. Because I haven't dived into like internet cults, but there's a whole lot of people explaining that nowadays there are plenty of cults on the internet and some of them may be kind of cultish. So where do you draw the line, and have you seen some of those on the internet? Because I'm not sure. I am someone who's very like niched down on the internet, therefore I live on my echo chamber and I'm really comfortable there. And along the lines of that question is like, have you ever like followed someone that makes you feel like really understood, especially on the internet, only to find out that they were really manipulative because they've been exposed or something? I think that this happens like every week. A new influencer, a new person gets exposed of being extremely manipulative. And that is scary, honestly. So if you're really curious to know whether you would be the perfect fit for a cult, click here. And if the video is still not up because your girl needs a bit of time, you can click here if you want to watch a video on how my mom got into a medical cult. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video and have a really nice week.